Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. My name is Jordan. I'm a millennial investor. If you have not seen me before, these are the goals that I track month over month and year over year and how I plan to get to $1 million by my 40th birthday, which is February 5th, 2039. And that's how I plan to get there using these goals right here. Now, if you haven't seen me before, I trade stocks and I also trade options. More importantly, I try to do long-term investing for companies that I enjoy and I think will grow for the long term while also selling options contracts against them. And this leads me to what today's video is about, which is all the trades that I made in 2021. All the winners, all the losers. We're going to showcase everything that I traded for the year, which the total profits I took was $6,413.96. Now this was from many different stock and options trades throughout the year, and we're going to go over all those. I'm going to go through each ticker that I traded and why I traded them and the total profits that I took so far. So without further ado, if you guys enjoyed this, sign up for M1 Finance. It would really help support me and my channel. Get up to $50 for getting signed up right now, and we've had 124 people sign up so far. They've all loved it. It's a free brokerage. It's absolutely free to use. I've used them most of 2020 and 2021. And I 100% stand by them, and I think they're a fantastic brokerage. So go ahead and sign up down below. You'd help support me, and you get a free $50, guys. But other than that, let's go ahead and jump into the trading history, and we look month over month. In August, we consolidated our portfolios to Fidelity, so all this trading history actually only shows from August 1st till December 31st, but nonetheless, we'll go through every single one of the trades that I made this year. So to start off, we have Bill.com. This was actually not me buying stock, this was actually me shorting a position and then covering my shares later on. If we go ahead and pull up Bill stock on Webull right here, you can see that it traded up to $348, and I shorted it, I believe it was around $325 or $330 if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember exactly where it was, but I ended up covering shortly after because I needed to move the capital into another position, but I still took a small profit of $39, and it was just a short quick trade. Next up, we have Chegg. I traded Chegg twice, and this is another one that was actually two short day trades. I mean, I held these maybe just a couple minutes on both of them, not very long. You see this big drop off here? See where my mouse is at on the vertical line? See, if you look at the top of the screen where it says 48.82% it went down that day on their horrible earnings announcement. Well, this is one where I day traded twice just for some quick options contracts and not one that I wanted to hold for long term. I traded both of them profitably, one for $37 profit, one for $113, and it's not one that I'll probably be messing with in 2022. Now, next up, we have one that I traded a lot in 2021 and was my biggest position going into 2022. It still is, by the way. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades throughout 2021. And all of these are options contracts. These are both options buys and options sells, from me selling options contracts, from me holding my position, but also me buying in the money options calls and then selling them later for a profit. Usually very short term, a couple minutes, couple hours at the most, a couple of days or a week or so. Now, first off, we have a $101 profit, a $270 profit, $491 profit, a $482 loss, a $304 loss, a $114 gain, $387 gain, $47 gain, and overall in total I probably made about $1,000 or so with Chewy throughout the year. It is currently my largest position, and I still own 300 shares of the company. Now, if we jump back over to Webull and we look over the last year or so, I originally added my shares at $80 each. Now, since then, the company, I gotta be honest, it's been devastated so much harder than I ever thought it would. When it hit $50 a share the other day, I thought, wow, that's gotta be the bottom. That's it. Won't go any lower. And today it's trading at $48.52. Now, regardless, it's one that I'm bullish on for the long term. It has severely underperformed from what I thought it would, but I'm expecting a big uproar. There's a lot of big things coming. First off, this company is going to be profitable starting the next year or so. This company, in my opinion, I could be wrong about this, I think will join the S&P 500 within the next couple of years. I think that this company will also continue its massive revenue growth story. While it did slow in 2021, I expect a ramp up in 2022. I could be wrong about all this, but regardless, I'll be holding the shares either way. It's a long-term hold for me. It's not one that I want to sell unless we see a big uproar in price. I'll probably be holding all or most of 2022. But Chewy is one that I like. I'm holding throughout the year, and I made some good profits on. Now, CleanSpark is one that I still hold. It is actually my fourth out of number 4. I own 4 different companies in my stock portfolio today. In order, that is Chewy, iRobot, Corsair Gaming, and fourth place is CleanSpark, and I traded it twice in 2021. The one of them, the $10 put, the second one right here, the smaller one, that was just a cash secured put that I sold when I originally built my position. I closed it out later for a $90 profit, just an easy quick gain. And then the next one was covered calls. I held these for about 3 or 4 months and ended up closing them out for a pretty much 100% profit, a $416 gain, an easy trade there. Next up, we have Corsair Gaming, which is my third largest position in my portfolio as of today. I made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trades with Corsair Gaming, and I had a $4 loss, a $156 gain, a $51 gain, $48 gain, $361 gain, $307 gain, a $1,168 gain, and then a $157 loss. So almost all these I traded profitably. One of them I traded really big into the profits, and one of those was actually a covered call sell. That one that you see, that was the big one right here, the $1,168 gain was actually from selling covered calls. I wanted to insulate my position in case the stock eventually turned down, which unfortunately it did, but I ended up closing it out far early. I sold it a year out in advance, and I closed it out after just 3 months, and I ended up claiming that $1,168 worth of profits, and since then I've been able to resell new covered calls at a lower and shorter strike price and get that monthly covered call income, which is really nice. Now the share price has been devastated. If we pull up Webull stock chart here for Corsair Gaming, like I said, another story, like with all these, growth stocks are just getting absolutely plummeted right now. If you can see, ever since that Wall Street Bet short squeeze day, it's been a downturn ever since. And I have to say, this is one that I have been a little bit disappointed with in terms of its business and its stock price both, but it's one that I'm still holding. Don't want to sell anytime soon. It's just way too low for me to sell right now. But I did trade a lot in 2021. I made some great profits, and that helped shield me from some of the losses that I'm experiencing right now for holding the shares that I own. I'll be selling covered calls either way, so I'll be generating monthly income no matter what the stock does. But next up, we have iRobot. This was actually it was the biggest in terms of buying and selling of a stock. If we look here and we look at the stock chart, I ended up buying 100 shares at $80 even, right here. And then it ended up selling them for $94.66. If you take 100 times 14.66, that's how you get this profit right here, plus some covered calls that I had covered out. So that's part of the reason why it says a little higher than that. But from selling my iRobot shares, I had $1,776 worth of profit, a $10 loss, a $22 loss, a $164 gain, and a $145 gain, all from trading and selling covered calls. Now, overall, iRobot was one of my big winners, and it's currently the second largest position in my portfolio. Those of you that don't know, I ended up buying $80 a share, selling $94 in 2021, but here in 2022, I've rebought back into my position. I bought 200 shares. I've now doubled up on my position at $67 a share. It's one that I think may experience some trouble and some hardship over the next 6 months as the revamp really comes back hard, but they're currently facing semiconductor shortages, supply chain issues, labor shortages, all that horrible inflationary nasty costs that are happening to many companies so far this year, and I expect this to finally go away within the next, say, 6 to 18 months. Now, when that happens, I think this company is going to roar back higher. I think it's definitely possible in 2023 that this is a $100 stock, maybe even more in a really good scenario. But it's one that's been hit hard from all these issues, but it will be subsiding soon, and it's one that I'm likely going to be holding with it for the next year or so. Unless this company has a massive uproar in price, I'll probably be holding all or most of 2022, and it will continue to be my second largest position. Now, next up we have Lucid. Now, Lucid was one that I was actually short. I believe as far as shorting companies go, I think it was actually my most profitable trade. Now, if we look at Lucid stock chart here, you can see that it peaked out at $57. I shorted the company at $52.50, so right about where my mouse is at horizontally, that horizontal line, that's where I shorted it. Once it started to hit this downturn right here in early December, once it had the consecutive red days, I ended up covering my short position. Now, meantime, I was selling weekly covered puts against it, and that's where most of these profits are from. Now, 1,549 was from covering the actual shares themselves, and then 25 from a covered put, 274 from a covered put, 248, 173, and then a $460 loss. All in total, I made about $2,000 or so from Lucid throughout the year, and it's one that I really hope roars back up higher because honestly, I'd like to short it again. If we could see $50, $60, $70 a share, which by the way, there's actually a lockup coming, so who knows? I may be making a trade very shortly, but stay tuned for that. We'll see what's going on there. But next up, we have Las Vegas Sands. Won't even really go over this one, just a cash secured put that I closed out very shortly, a couple days later, extremely small gain of $3. So hooray, I can buy myself a Snickers bar and a Dr. Pepper pepper. Next up, we have Nikola, another short position that I took. $1,126 worth of the actual shorts, a $118 loss from an options contract, an $11 gain from an options contract, and a $236 gain from an options contract. Now, Nikola is one that has finally started to uptrend again here in the last month or two, and it peaked out at $15, and that's when I started shorting it. I believe it was around $13, $14 if I'm not mistaken. Ended up covering a little too early as it was still dropping, but I hope this one comes back up because it's a company that I hate. If you know me and you follow my channel, it's one that I think that's absolute garbage, and I think it's probably going to be a loser long term. And honestly, I think it even face bankruptcy within the next decade. Now, I could be wrong about that, but regardless, I'll be looking in 2022 for another potential short opportunity, so stay tuned for that. I hope we see an upward price so I can short at an even higher price. Now, next up, we have Purple. Once again, won't even go over this one. Very short trade. I held it for a couple minutes. It was really dumb. $3 gain, not even worth really talking about. Now, Rivian. We have two trades with Rivian, yet another short position. Looking at the short position for Rivian, looking at the stock chart, it peaked out at 179. I believe I sold it right here at 1216, around the $115, $120 range, and I sold like a day later for a quick $510 gain. And then I also sold a weekly put that also expired a little bit out of the money, and so I sold it for a $22 gain. So overall, I made about $500 for Rivian, one that I'm also looking to short once again if these electric vehicles companies keep going up to sky-high valuations. Next up, we have Rocket. This was one that I sold from actually buying shares. This was one of the only two in the year I actually bought shares and then later sold out for a profit. Now, I ended up moving the capital into Chewy, so that's the reason why I sold out early, because I wanted to buy more of my Chewy position. I sold my shares for a small $67 gain, not very much, and I had two covered calls, one that was a $16 profit, one that was a $9 loss. So overall, in total, I made about $75 or so with Rocket. Not a lot of money. It's one that I will probably invest back into 2022 if I can just find the money. I am fully decked out with my cash. I've invested in everything, and frankly, I'm just out of cash to invest in new stocks right now, but it's one that I really like at these prices, currently trading at about $14, which was even lower than I bought it at originally at around $15, so that is fantastic. Now, next up, we have Roku, one of the biggest losers of the year. Roku was one that I tried to time bottom with, and looking back on this right now, thank goodness that I sold out when I did, because this $997 loss would have been much worse. If we look at the Roku stock chart here, and we look over the last several months when I was trading this, it had its one little spike up here, but ever since then, it's been down and down and down and down. And even, just look at the last 4 days. January 4th, minus 4%. January 5th, minus 11%. January 6th, minus 1%. January 7th, minus 7%. You can see that's just been a free fall for this company, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be ending anytime soon, unfortunately. Now, this is one that I took a big loss on, and this leads me to the same thing with the next two, which goes to tax loss harvesting. Looking at Smile Direct Club, that was just a short-term trade, but Tattooed Chef was one that I traded more than any other stock in 2021. I traded many covered calls, and other than this one right here, I sold all of them out for a profit, but them shares themselves were sold for a big loss, and I ended up selling for $16 a share. Was a loss from when I bought it at, which is around, I think around $18 or so if I'm not mistaken, but today it trades at $14.55. So far this could change long term, but as of today I've dodged a bullet, and I reinvested that money back into other positions, including Chewy, and I believe more iRobot shares if I'm not mistaken. But this was one that I wanted to take some tax loss harvesting on. There's ones that I may be doing that here in 2022 with, but in 2021, I already owed so many in taxes. You can see even with this big loss, I owed $6,000. How much was it again? $6,413 to be exact. And so this loss definitely helped offset some of those taxes. I wish it could have been a winner. That really sucked, but Tattooed Chef did not treat me well, and it's one that I kind of regret. I don't regret, but the story has changed, and it's not one that I want to invest in anymore. I had a quick trade with Visa, very short term, bought some call options, sold them later for $188 gain. Not so much going on there. Next, we have 3 Wish trades. These are very short terms, very dumb. It had a drop off its earnings. Not one that I wanted to hold in terms of its fundamentals, but it was one that I quickly traded and lost about $500, and that's what I get for being stupid. So congratulations, Jordan, you were stupid. That's a good way to burn $500. So I have them sorted now from my biggest losses to my biggest winners, and I'm going to slowly scroll through this, and I'll talk over it while you look through it. Now, in 2021, we had lots of big gains. Now, there were some that lost some money that you can see right here, like Tattooed Chef, Roku, some Chewy positions. Some of these were really bad. But overall, in terms of winning versus losing trades, you can see as this starts to scroll up, things got much better. Overall, this was what I consider to be a successful year. The back half of 2021 and early 2022 has been really rough, as most of the shares that I've owned have really gone down in value. Now, the good news is I'm holding these for the long term, and I expect to bounce back sometime this year. It may be next week, it may be next month, but I expect long term throughout the year, I expect my trading history to probably look something like what you're seeing right now. Now, this was only for the last 4 or 5 months of 2021, so remember, this is not even close to all my trading history. This is just everything that I have on record with Fidelity. So 2022, 1 year from now when we're filming this video, we will have much more trades. But as we get further up on the list here, you can see that many of the trades were very profitable. Like I said, we had some big losers throughout the year, but looking at all those winners, we had over 4 trades that were $1,000 plus, not to mention several that were $1, $2, $3, $4, $500 trades, and we only had 1 trade that was a $1,000 loss, pretty much 2 if you count Roku. But you can see the losing trades versus the winning trades are quite a big difference, and that's what led us to claim $6,413 worth of profit in the year 2021. But overall, guys, I plan on still holding my goals. I'm planning to get to $1 million by the age of 40, and I plan on showcasing all my results, success or failure, like I always say. But other than that, guys, get signed up with M1 Finance down below for $50. If you didn't get signed up already, $50 down below. It's free to use, no fees whatsoever, and you'd really appreciate it if you could help support me and my channel. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.